All right. Welcome to another live stream interview for Color Hacks. And again, your founder, Dooney Dyer Coyote in
Hey
Chicago,
everyone,
and one of your co-founders, Darren Perkins, in the DC area.
how you doing?
And we have another very special guest with us, Tiana Horn, who is more than just an entrepreneur. She wears many hats at her company. She is also a Duke alum like me. So there's a few things she mentioned that I might know about. But more importantly, she's taken the time to come and say hi to everyone to tell you her story and help you figure out how do you go from being like who she was before to becoming who she is now, but doing that in your own life so you can be the same kind of person and impact others. So uh, let's get started. Dooney, take it away.
I'm good. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I'm really excited to hear what Tiana has to say, especially as a fellow entrepreneur. A fellow rising entrepreneur. I'm interested to see what she has to say about this, and just to get us started, like kind of walk us through and introduce everybody, like just introduce yourself to everybody, like tell us who you are as a person, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I guess who I am as a person, I really like this quote where it says, "You are what you do." And so, just based on that, not that thinking, I would say I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a software engineer, as well as general things like family member, friend, and things like that. But these days, especially with the pandemic and staying inside, I literally just spend most of my time working on my companies. It's actually like fun for me. Like I was up last night until like 3 a.m. just doing like website styling and stuff, and also watching iCarly rerun.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I actually kind of like that with color hacks. I would spend like I remember there was one time like the last week for color hacks, I decided to like spend an all nighter because apparently I took a nap because I was on my bed, I was on my phone waiting for a reply from someone because I needed it, and I just somehow slept off, and then I woke up and I was like, you know what, might as well just pull all nighter because it's like 12 a.m. But yeah, that's really good stuff. You like mind like telling everyone about like your whole entrepreneur life and like all your companies and all the stuff, the other good stuff you have going on, like, kind of like tell everybody about it and stuff.
Yeah, so right now, what I'm working on is a company called Flower Child Remedies, which I actually started while I was in college. Around that time, I had been working at an entrepreneurship hub in Durham. It was about like, I believe, like 250 startups, like all just working out of the space. And I was actually a business analyst for another company. But then a friend of mine who started her own company, she just asked me, "Oh, what's your startup idea?" And so I actually had an idea for another company that I'm also working on now, and that one's called Get Justice. And so I guess I'll give the backstory of what that is. So you can find more information about that one at getjustice.bitbucket.io. But I'm basically building an app where people will be able to, like, if they see human rights violations or hate crimes or police brutality on social media, they'll be able to send it directly to like civil rights groups and media without needing to leave their timeline. And so that was actually my original startup idea. But at the time in like 2015, I didn't know how to code, but I had been making kind of like all natural deep conditioners for like myself and for some of my friends. So I just kind of felt like that would be a little easier to start since, it was something that I was already working on. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, yeah, I guess that's where my present entrepreneurship journey kind of started around like
Yeah.
2015. And around that same time, American Underground started this thing called Black Wall Street Homecoming, which was really great. And they basically just brought like a ton of Black entrepreneurs and venture capitalists and investors to Durham for like a whole weekend of just like, panels and like networking. And it was a lot of fun. That was actually where I first pitched Flower Child Remedies. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say my entrepreneurship journey actually started before then when I was younger, when I was around, I believe I was either 10 or 11 or kind of like that age range. But we had just moved to like a new apartment, and I randomly found like a sewing needle on the ground. And then I had like a pillow that was coming apart. So I started like pulling out the thread from it. And I decided to make like a teddy bear clothing company. And that was called Imani Bear. And so I would literally take like old clothes and like cut out designs and just like sew them together. I got my cousin involved and we started making business cards out of construction paper and going around to our complex and like passing them out to people. And then I feel like a little bit after that, I also started selling, like I would write people's names in bubble letters on construction paper and sell it for like 20, 25 or like 50 cents at school. And then also while I was in Duke, right before I started Flower Child Remedies, I started kind of like a side hustle called Tiager Creations, where I would make like flyers for student organizations. I guess that's kind of like my entrepreneurship journey.
That's really good stuff. Yeah.
I guess quick question, because you mentioned getjustice.bitbucket.io, which I pulled up, but then you mentioned a few other things. So I thought, how about we have you screen share and show a couple of those things real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
All right. And while I'm pulling this up, I'll talk a little bit more about Get Justice. So I actually majored in public policy while I was in undergrad, but I ended up doing like a coding boot camp afterward. And that's actually where I was able to build out the initial prototype for Get Justice. We did like final projects and I pitched it to our group and 2 other people joined on and helped me build it. I'm super grateful for them, Samia Aji and David Sedgwick. So I have it pulled up now. Let me do the screen share. And yeah, I just, like, as it is right now, I don't really want to really like publicize the Chrome extension just because I feel like it's not as accessible. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so I can play the demo if you'd like. I think it's just a minute or 2.
Yeah, all right. Fine, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is basically how it works right now. But yeah, say you're like scrolling on Twitter and you see something that you would like to report. You basically click on the post and then our Chrome extension icon at the top. And it's just like a pop-up that comes down and asks you if it's a hate crime, police brutality, or a civil rights violation. And then based on what you select, it kind of pre-populates an email with like people who like deal with those types of crimes and address those types of crimes. And you can also edit the, I guess, boilerplate text and then just hit send and keep scrolling. And you can also remove the image if you wanted to for some reason.
This is really cool stuff, especially like with all the stuff that's been going on since like 2020 and leading to now. I think this is much needed in society.
Yeah, and yeah, that was definitely just like my reason for creating it, because I'm originally from like East Orange, North New Jersey, but and while I'm talking, I'll go ahead and pull up Flower Child Remedies as well. But I'm originally from like East Orange, North New Jersey, but while I was in high school and stuff, and for a lot of my life, I lived in Deltona, Florida, which is about 15 minutes from Sanford, Florida, and Sanford is where the Trayvon Martin's incident happened. And so I remember I was like in school and it was crazy because like I had just learned about stand your ground laws like right before that incident in like a class I was in. And it was just really wild for me to see it become something that was, people were protesting locally and then it gained all this national attention. But at the same time, I knew that this was something that happens sadly very often and doesn't get that national attention. So this was one as a way to kind of like help more things, like at least reach the point where they do get, taken to court and things like that, but also just like providing kind of like just improving people's mental health of, like being on social media and feeling like they can do something about all these things that they're seeing. And now the screen that I'm sharing is Flower Child Remedies. And so I'm actually really proud of this website because I've like built it myself from scratch.
Wow.
Yeah, at first we were like on Squarespace, but then once I learned how to code, I was like, I'd rather just like build it myself instead of paying that. But yeah, these were our products and things like that. It's pretty simple. I'm going to do some more styling a little later and add like a banner up here
Okay.
with like some ads and stuff. But yeah, it's
Looks really
functional, and we were able to incorporate stripes, so everything's secure and stuff. But let's see, I'll stop the screen share now.
Right. Thank you. I think that was very informational, and that was really cool. I actually am a big fan of flower remedies. I'm actually glad at the fact that there's someone, because like I'm planning like collaboration with Elias or another person named Elias. He was the founder. Well, he was the organizer for FHSX, and like his website, like he did his website from scratch. I'm like, dude, what the heck you spent that much time doing it? Because I use Webflow for mine, even though it took like a little bit of time, like it was so equal, it was hard. Like seeing someone that is actually able to like code it from scratch actually pretty cool. But yeah, I'm actually a big fan of like the entrepreneur world, the VC and all that stuff like that. Like for example, like my brother who I'm gonna be interviewing in like an hour or so, like he kind of like introduced me to that world, and like I kind of like understand like how it is to get into that world and like understand what to do, and like like what advice would you have for someone out there trying to pursue like the entrepreneur world, and like what advice you have for someone who's like who's trying to just develop themselves into like becoming a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I would say the best thing is to just, go out and do it, because I feel like you learn the most from doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, working at startups, something I always heard was the idea of an MVP, which means like minimal viable product. And
Yeah.
so, in a nutshell, that's just like what's the bare minimum that you can do to get a product into someone's hands so that you can get feedback on that product. And like, for instance, for me with Flower Child Remedies, that was, a recipe, a bottle, and a label so that I could like hand it to someone. And
Mm-hmm.
just from having that MVP, when I first did that pitch, someone actually brought one. And then, like at the time, so I guess the premise of our company is not putting anything into your hair that you wouldn't feel safe putting into your body. So everything's all natural, food grade. And at
Mhm.
the time, we had like deep conditioners that were made out of yogurt. And
Oh
so,
wow.
one of the first questions someone asked was like, "Oh, should I refrigerate this?" And just by her asking that question, I realized, oh, I probably should have put that on the label that it needs to be refrigerated.
Yeah.
And then when I tried it, I realized that the label was coming off because it wasn't waterproof. So,
Oh
just like
yeah.
going out and actually building whatever you want, even if it's not fully into that thing that you want it to be at the time when you first make it, that's definitely just great for getting feedback.
That's cool.
Yeah, I
That's
like
cool stuff.
to just throw in something that I tell a lot of kids when they're starting with tech. They're saying, "Oh, I built this." I'm like, "That's great. Did you show anyone?" And especially if it's on mobile, you don't want to just tell a recruiter or an interviewer, "I built something for my phone." You want to hand the phone to them because they're naturally going to take that phone from you.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have your app open so they can just take the phone from you and be like, "Oh, wow, they're playing with the app, actually using it on the spot, talking to you about your app." That's the thing. You want to get these things into their hands. And that's what gets people to say, "I'm going to hire you. I'm going to accept you into this school." Or, you know what, in your case, here's some investment. So I think that's one of the best things people can do. You build something, get it into people's hands, so then they can start talking to you about it directly and giving you feedback and maybe even more.
Yeah. I feel like to add on to that, yeah, that is like a really key thing, especially if you want to go to entrepreneur, like I said. Because I took this course like for like I think it was like 6 weeks long, the YC Startup School course, and like there's a like they pushed on us like you got to make sure you get something out there, because like without you getting something out there, you don't even know if that product is needed or not. Because like what if you spend like this like 6 months building a product that's already out there, and you just wasted 6 months of your life instead of like just getting MVP out there. I'll take you like at least like three. If something's gonna take you 3 months, you probably try to find it. This probably a way to like dumb it down and like kind of like just get it out there. Like for example, like Twitch wasn't as big as it used to be before, and like all these other companies like Airbnb wasn't as big as it used to be as it is now. And just get something out there. And like I said before, baby steps as well. Get yourself out there and just yeah. But you talked about like starting from like 10 years old, you you started your own like sort of like startup company by like selling the teddy bears and stuff like that. I'm sure like through all of that, like you started like evolving into like these different mindsets and these different thoughts, and like you finally decided that you want to be, you want to manage different companies. Like, where did this evolution kind of start for you? And like, what did this evolution like? What impact this evolution have on like the goals you set for yourself?
Yeah, so I would say my current evolution of, I guess, like working on my company's full time started like just last November. I guess like my entrepreneurship evolution was in 2015 when I decided to, like start Flower Child Remedies. But more present day, it was actually last November, and I actually quit the job I was working at. I was an associate a software engineer, and I really liked the company, but I decided to leave. And since then, I've enjoyed just, being able to work for myself in a sense and be able to like build up these companies. I've even made like two other side hustles. One is like this website called Printed Poems, and another one was called Black Owned Drones. But for those two, they're really just like drop shipping things I was doing, so it wasn't like too time consuming for me.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of stopped Black Owned Drones, and now I'm just trying to sell that domain. So
Yeah, I am a big fan of like trying to just get as much stuff out there and like just doing different stuff at the same time. It's like I always tell Scotty, like doing the collabs, like I have like two different laptops, and like as I'm doing one and I'm waiting for the other one to load, I just start doing another one. As this one's loaded, I'm just doing the other one. Like I am a big fan of like doing multiple things at the same time. It kind of gets my brain going. It kind of like it's kind of what gets me going. But why do you feel like all this evolution and stuff? Why do you feel like it was necessary in life? Or like do you feel like without that evolution or without that kind of mindset, do you think you'd be where you are today?
yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I definitely don't think I would be where I am today without that evolution, especially the one in 2015 where I started getting involved in startups. And I don't know, even that time, it was kind of like a difficult time in my life. I had actually taken a break from Duke just because there were
Mm-hmm.
just like some anxiety and some things that I needed to work on before I came back. But if I hadn't left, then I probably wouldn't have started my company, because it was during that time that I was away where I started working on those startups.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just feel
Okay.
like in a sense also it's really necessary for me to like finish this app and things like that, just because I like to be someone who finishes what I start. And I feel like there's a lot of goals that I've wanted in my life or that I feel like I've seen unattainable. And even this one of like building an app, it has seemed kind of unattainable for me at times, but I know that it is possible. And I just want to, prove to myself, for one, that I can do it, so that as I'm, going forward, I can feel more confident in
Yeah.
those goals.
So I kind of want to ask about something. You mentioned taking a break from Duke, and then we've been hanging out on Clubhouse in the Duke rooms you create. And last night, or no, I guess a couple of nights ago, the room name, I forgot what it was exactly, but it was something Black History Month. And I thought it was really cool because you had looked up all these Black people who had played a big role in Duke's history. For example, designing the our main campus, for example, which now I guess not the entire campus, but the main quad is now named Abel Quad, in his honor. And like you said, his granddaughter uh, was his granddaughter or great granddaughter?
It was great grandniece.
Oh, okay, yeah, great grandniece, yeah, and she was a student and played a big role in getting him to finally be recognized. The stuff he'd done when he would not have been allowed to be a student, and then during that time, you mentioned stuff like the Black Bench, which listening to you guys talk about, I was like, I didn't know there was a name. I knew about it, and I would hang out there sometimes, but I didn't know it was a thing. I thought it was just somehow that was a convenient spot. So I guess would you say some of that stuff helped you before you took your break, gave you some stuff to think about during your break, and then when you got back on campus, it was still there to kind of be like, okay, hey, you were gone for a bit, how you doing? And then, kind of keep driving you forward.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would just say like the Black community at Duke in general was just super welcoming. Uh, Yeah, I remember my like freshman year during orientation week, like it was just like a ton of us. We got off a bus, and then we saw one of our friends that are at the bus stop. He's like, "Did I miss something?" Because it was just like I don't know, it was like we were all coming from like the same event. And yeah, I just really loved the community there. It was super strong.
I like to throw in something. I had the opposite experience. There was an upperclassman going down the hallway handing out all these little flyers saying, "Hey, I forgot which one, but one of the black frats was having a party." And I didn't know anyone on campus. I grew up in small towns, and so I was the only person I knew on campus. I get there and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come by?" I'm looking at this. I'm like, "Wait, I'm not black." He's like, "So what? It's a party. You want to go to parties? All right, I'll come along." So I followed him through a couple more dorms, and I was like, I don't really know what's going on because I just got to campus like 4 days ago. Except, I guess, all right, here's a crowd, and I'm part of this, and of course, I'm just like fish out of the water because I'm like, what do you do at college parties? Because I spent my high school Fridays doing track meets and basketball games, so I had no idea how to party. But like you said, they were very welcoming, and for me, I found out like before classes even started, there's like, what, you're on campus, come do stuff. Oh, okay, cool. And but yeah, I kind of want to go back to you're talking about being an entrepreneur and stuff. The community you mentioned at Duke, I remember hearing about American Tobacco Campus and American Underground. I feel like they try to offer the same kind of community that you mentioned on campus, right?
Yeah, when I was at American Underground, there would be like weekly Hope Fest, and that was a time where like they would have like free pizza, to draw the crowd, and usually just like some type of either discussion or like presentation that was going on, and then like time to network after. So yeah, it's definitely really big on community, and they have like a nice rooftop that people gather at and have happy hours and stuff.
That sounds amazing. I got to get back there.
I think it's over that, Scotty. Sorry.
Yeah, get some cookout,
I'll say so. Tiana, you talked about like taking a break from Duke. Like, I want you to like kind of like give me a rundown of that, like what that was like. Because like as a fellow high schooler, like after I told Scotty this before, like after high school, I'm planning on like going to Stanford. But before I go to Stanford, I'm trying to take a gap year or two between so I can like raise my company and whatnot. Because like the thing my brother told me was like companies are more likely to invest into people who are full time into the company rather than students who are like here and there into the company. So like I'm planning on taking a gap year. So like what or gap year or two. So like what like just kind of give me like a rundown or like a brief like explanation of what that break from Duke was like and like what you did during your time.
Yeah, so the first semester, so I was originally only supposed to be gone for a semester. It ended up being two. But that first semester, I kind of went back to Florida, and I don't know, it was definitely a culture shock because my family is more so like low socioeconomic status. At that time we had our own house and things, but um, there definitely is a lot about Duke that I missed. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
5-star restaurant called the Wa Duke, which we were able to like eat at on food points, and like Duke has so many events where they're just, giving out free stuff. And I guess being home in Florida and just having, I guess, that like economic gap really hit me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly feel like that was kind of good for me because I almost feel like before I was in like some type of fairy tale world where like that was kind of like my reality check. Like, what are you going to do after you graduate,
Yeah.
And so I feel like that kind of primed me to really start thinking about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I said, like I needed to, in order to get back to Duke, I had to actually get a full-time job in order to like show that, you're still like, like keeping up with stuff and things like that. And at the time, like in Florida, the only thing that I could find was like a cashier job at the Dollar Tree. And I didn't have a car, so I would have to like walk an hour in the heat. And that's when I was like, all right, this isn't for me. Like I actually like decided to come back to Durham. I told my dad that I had a job already set up, but I honestly didn't. But luckily, like my brother and then my aunt let me stay with them, like crash on the
Mm-hmm.
couch and stuff. And I was able to actually find something within a week, and find like that full-time internship that I ended up doing and becoming the business analyst for like, it was like, I believe like 10 person real estate tech startup at the time. So yeah, but I guess that was kind of like my time off in a
Mm-hmm.
nutshell.
Mm-hmm. So that's that's actually kind of like eye opening. But You said like the gap year kind of like opened your eyes and kind of like gave you a little bit of growth. Like that growth, like how would you want to impact? Like how would you want that growth to impact those? Like for example, me and Dan who are listening, who are both like youngins trying to like make it on the board, and also the participants who are watching as well. Like how would you want your growth to impact them?
Yeah, I would just, I guess the main way is just to like show that anyone can do it, you know. Like I said, I feel like a lot of times when people see people who have gone to Duke, they just think that like, oh, they've lived, you know, a super privileged life to like get to where
Mm-hmm.
they are. But really, like most of my high school career, from like my junior year to like the end of I mean, from my freshman year to the end of my junior year, I was living in like a 4-bedroom house with like 28 family members and stuff, and it was during the recession. And so, you know, just being able to, I guess, get to where I am, even though I kind of, you know, I wasn't able to afford the, you know, all the SAT preps that, you know, other students were doing and things like
Yeah,
that. But just, you know, to show people that despite of wherever you come from, that you can also, you know, reach your dreams and like
yeah.
set high goals for yourself. I guess that's my main goal.
Earlier you like mentioned about like apart from being an entrepreneur and all this fun stuff, like you're a family person, like you try to like be involved in family and stuff like that. Like I'm sure they've also had some impact on like who you are, who you are right now as a person. So like, which of them would you like to thank if they're watching? Which one of them would you like to thank?
Uh, yeah, I guess now I would definitely thank, well, my 2 cousins, one who's my current co-founder, Brianna, as well as her sister, Erica, because Erica just helped us get into a store in Durham called Bodega.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely thank those two.
Okay.
That was great. And I guess everyone watching, they've heard your story, the stuff you've done in your life, the stuff that you've always been doing, but also finding out that before Duke, you were just like anyone else. I was a first generation student. I was semi low socioeconomic status, come from a small town. So, I think, it's definitely one of those things where, yeah, me and you, we both understand what it's like come from those backgrounds. For anyone watching, we had to work hard to get to where we were, and then from there to where we are now. So definitely hope that this encourages you. Don't look at us now and think, oh man, how am I going to get to that point? They went to Duke. Think of it as, where are you now? What can you do to get to the school you want? And then from there, what can you do to get to where you want after that? Dooney's not even in college yet, but he already knows where he's trying to go. If you don't know yet, that's fine. Everyone has a different path, but don't feel like you can't catch up to us, because we made choices at your age to get somewhere, made more choices at that point to get somewhere else. And right now, that's your turn to start saying, what choice can I make in my life? So we hope this helps a lot. Tiana, would you like to leave any last words for everyone?
Yeah, well, just thanks for having me, and just wishing you all the best in everything that you do.
All right, thank you. Anyone who wants to reach out, we'll leave some contact information in the video description below. And definitely best of luck finishing up with this event, building your projects. Just keep going. Like I said, start somewhere, just make decisions now. When you get somewhere you want to be, then you can make decisions to lead to where you want to be later on. And one day you look back and say, oh, yeah, I'm just like those people I saw on YouTube once. So, one step at a time.
Yeah. Baby steps.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll catch you in a bit for the next interview with Dooney's older brother,
Yep.
Timmy.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
looking forward